The first time I noticed Ethan Brooks, he was standing in the break room at Nexus Forge, staring down a malfunctioning espresso machine like it had personally betrayed him. Not yelling, just that low, patient mutter of a man who'd spent 2 decades coaxing life out of temperamental hardware while the world rushed past. He wore the same faded company hoodie every day, the one with the Nexus Forge logo half peeled off, lanyard frayed at the edges. His coffee mug was chipped, saying, "Keep calm and debug on." From a distance, you'd peg him for just another veteran IT architect marking time until retirement. But if you'd ever been on call at 3 a.m., when a critical production environment teetered on the brink, only to have it stabilize under some invisible hand, you knew Ethan was the one quietly holding everything together. My name is Sarah Klein. I work in compliance and risk assessment at Nexus Forge, buried in audits, regulatory filings, and red flag reports. No fancy offsites in Napa for me, but I've been here 8 years and watched Ethan the whole time. He moved through the Austin office like background noise, essential, unobtrusive, untouched by the hype cycles swirling around the open plan floors. When Nexus Forge landed its first major federal cybersecurity contract, it was Ethan's foundational architecture diagrams that passed every scrutiny without a hitch. Redundancies layered on redundancies. He never boasted, never pushed for promotions. He'd just sketch something on the whiteboard during late-night sessions and say softly, "This should hold." And it always did. Life at Nexus Forge felt stable until Taylor Quinn stepped in as interim CEO. She was the founder's niece, fresh from a Harvard MBA, always in crisp tailored blazers, tossing around terms like synergy acceleration, frictionless scaling, and cultural velocity with effortless enthusiasm. She positioned herself as the disruptor we needed. Overnight, the office filled with standing desks, mandatory Slack gratitude channels, and workshops on mindful disruption. Everyone over 40 started glancing sideways at each other. It wasn't outright panic yet, but the air thickened with unease. Ethan kept his cramped workspace near the legacy server room, surrounded by worn technical manuals on kernel optimization, failover protocols, and high availability systems. Most new hires barely knew his name. He observed everything from the edges. One evening around 6:45 p.m., as the floor emptied, I caught him slipping into the old server alcove with a small, unmarked black USB drive. Through the reflection in the glass partition, I watched him insert it not into any company machine but his personal laptop, an older, rugged model kept deliberately isolated. Whatever data he transferred took mere seconds. He wiped the drive clean on his sleeve and left without a word. That moment lingered with me. Ethan never acted without deep purpose. The next morning, Taylor sent a company-wide email announcing Modernization Initiative, Phase 1. A short list of roles under strategic review appeared. Ethan's name topped it. The subject line promised, "Exciting evolution for Nexus Forge's future. Corporate speak for impending discomfort." I read it while waiting for my morning coffee, a dull headache building from the latest compliance drill. Taylor, at 29, radiated TED Talk energy, eyes bright, smile practiced. No mention of infrastructure continuity, just buzzwords about agile realignment and lean operations. Phase 1 kicked off Monday. Slack erupted. New channels proliferated. One pinned company-wide called Velocity Refresh Hub. Taylor's chief of staff posted about a deep legacy alignment audit, requesting inventories of outdated workflows and dependencies. The word alignment carried an edge. That afternoon, Taylor led a virtual all-hands. Hundreds joined. She quoted innovators, smiled reassuringly, and declared it was time to embrace discomfort for growth. Ethan joined late. Camera off. A silent gray circle. Afterward, passing his workspace, I saw his laptop screen glowing in the dim light with a sticky note nearby. Core stays anchored. Later that evening, an old colleague who'd left during a prior cloud shift messaged me. Saw the audit push. If they mess with the foundation layer, they're playing with fire. I didn't reply, but my mind drifted to Ethan's old whiteboard sketches from years ago, mocked as outdated then. Yet the modern stack still rode atop them like a sleek vehicle on a solid, hidden understructure. Most young engineers never realized the bridge existed. The private meeting invite hit early the next day. Transition alignment discussion. No agenda. Just 15 minutes on Ethan's calendar with Taylor's initials. I spotted it via lingering access privileges from a past audit. By the time the call started, I was eavesdropping discreetly from the copy room, earbuds in. Taylor's voice came bright but brittle. Ethan, thanks for your time. Your long tenure since the early bootstrap days is appreciated. Your work laid important groundwork. Silence from Ethan. She pressed on about strategic shifts, agile native approaches, and rethinking legacy infrastructure roles. The CTO, Marcus Reed, always in his Patagonia vest, smug presence palpable even through audio, listened without comment. Taylor noted the call was recorded, outlined a severance package, an NDA, and asked for questions. Ethan's voice finally broke the quiet, calm and measured. No questions. Just wondering if momentum always outpaces memory. Taylor chuckled awkwardly. The call ended. I slipped back to my desk as juniors laughed about Taylor's latest meme on innovation sprints. In his office, Ethan's screen still glowed with terminal windows stacked like careful dominoes. The USB drive rested nearby. Waiting. He wasn't packing up. He was preparing. The days blurred into a tense rhythm after that private call. Ethan arrived earlier than usual, retreating to his tucked-away desk behind the false panel in the infrastructure alcove where old cables snaked like veins and server fans hummed a steady, almost organic rhythm. He pulled open a drawer with reverence, retrieving the black USB drive, scratched, serial partially worn from years of pocket carry. It looked unremarkable, but something in his deliberate handling made it feel weighty. He connected it. LED steadying. A terminal opened. Ethan navigated familiar paths labeled with cryptic markers only he fully understood: sentry protocols, anchor holds, echo nodes. He executed a concise script, no flashy payload, just a subtle handshake trigger to dormant pathways. A quiet reminder ping to the foundation layer he'd architected when Nexus Forge operated from folding tables in a rented warehouse space. Back then, redundancy meant survival during all-night debugging sessions for early clients, not abstract bloat. The foundation layer wasn't in the shiny cloud dashboards the new team worshipped. It was older, buried behind authentication only Ethan recalled, technically phased out in docs but never fully severed. A ghost backbone providing silent insurance. He audited endpoints, mostly idle. A few validators still responsive in forgotten corners. The beauty lay in its invisibility. New leadership assumed full replacement. In reality, they'd merely relabeled the old without excising it. Ethan leaned back, hands behind his head, staring upward before placing the drive aside like a trusted tool. He opened a simple README file outlining bypass protocols, handshake echoes requiring physical key presence. No one else knew those echoes lived. He drafted a brief internal note scheduled for morning delivery. This isn't retaliation. It's calibration. Then he monitored the echo cycles, dormant code stirring subtly because it had never truly ceased listening. The severance package arrived by afternoon email. Polite thanks. Acknowledgement of foundational contributions. 6 months pay tied to NDA signature. Credentials revoked overnight. Attached summaries confirmed access changes, including patches to validation interfaces attempting to excise legacy handshakes. They'd spotted anomalies but patched superficially. Arrogant and assuming surface fixes sufficed, like swapping locks while ignoring the crawl space beneath. Ethan sighed, more annoyed than angry. Half measures again. On his air-gapped setup, he replicated the environment offline, identified the reroute, then built a lightweight proxy mirror emulating original responses from an external node. The trigger now whispered to owned but overlooked assets. Tests confirmed green status, not acceptance, but absence of denial. That night, while the team celebrated velocity wins at a rooftop event shared on LinkedIn, Ethan sat in his quiet Austin apartment, packet logs pulsing on a private monitor. Tiredness lined his face, but responsibility anchored him. Foundations cracked? The system wouldn't summon Taylor. It remembered him. The farewell invite arrived cheerily. Honoring a pillar. Farewell to Ethan Brooks. Mandatory all-hands Zoom Monday morning. Cameras on. I joined with forced smile and coffee. Stomach nodding like before an unavoidable collision. Taylor centered the screen. Perfectly lit. Power ponytail sleek. Lavender blazer crisp. She beamed about honoring early builders whose rails enabled current soaring. Reading from notes, she praised Ethan's discipline and insights, framing the transition as building atop his legacy. Slack bots simulated applause. Marcus smirked in his grid square, confident the old guard yielded to agile successors. Taylor reminded everyone of recording for compliance. Ethan's camera activated. He appeared composed in his faded hoodie. Plain wall behind. No staging. A subtle smile. Slowly, he lifted the black USB drive into view, no theatrics. Just deliberate presentation like a surgeon revealing an instrument. Marcus jolted forward. That's not. The anchor token? Ethan tilted his head silently, then spoke clearly. You reclassified the core layer. Never fully decommissioned it. Chat exploded with confused emojis. Taylor's expression glitched with legal alarm. Ethan leaned closer. You don't erase what you never fully grasp. The drive engaged. His feed darkened, but back-end indicators began shifting. At precisely 1 minute past the hour, the first disruption surfaced. Sales teams reported blank CRM interfaces in Slack. Product channels followed with timeout errors and 502s cascading. Engineering logs filled with red flags. Status panels graying out across the core stack. The public homepage remained untouched, front-end pristine, while internals froze in a precise, orchestrated stall. Only deep expertise could engineer such targeted, non-destructive intervention. Taylor froze on screen, blinking rapidly. Marcus typed frantically off mic. A junior engineer unmuted. Why are we hitting the anchor vault? What vault? Legal jumped in. Voice sharp. Intake of breath as general counsel realized this was no glitch, but protocol-level reroute. Audit trail material with regulatory implications. Who authorized this deviation? Why is core data isolated? Marcus stammered about an old failover protocol supposedly deprecated years prior. Ethan, still audible via lingering connection, interjected smoothly. You renamed it in migration notes. I preserved the echo node because full decommissioning lacked proper sign-off. You chased speed. I ensured versioning. Control was never transferred. The room processed the implication. Patches had skimmed surfaces, missing handshake roots and the untouched foundation layer. Legal whispered urgently. Taylor paled, sheen cracking. Ethan clarified the data remained encrypted and accessible in the vault, but only by acknowledging overlooked history. An intern typed in company Slack. Ethan Brooks rerouted without breakage. This is safeguarding, not sabotage. A former SRE chimed in from outside. The anchor lives. Warned you. Silence deepened on the call. Marcus stared at his reflection. Taylor removed her earpiece. Legal scrambled in shared docs. Ethan unplugged the drive deliberately, placing it down like concluding a precise chess move, not triumph, but inevitability. He sat motionless as leadership confronted the architecture they'd never mapped, built by the man they'd dismissed. In the following weeks, Nexus Forge's atmosphere shifted, polite, subdued, self-aware. A Friday memo announced temporary infrastructure freeze for proactive resilience review and alignment. Vague corporate phrasing masked the truth. No one dared touch back-end code until mapping Ethan's potential embeds. Marcus resigned soon after, citing pursuit of cloud-native roles elsewhere. Engineers joked he'd locked himself out via legacy API conflicts. Taylor remained but transformed, blazers still bright. Updates hashtagged with resilience and gratitude. Yet her smile never reached her eyes. Hallway whispers turned Brooks into legend. Some claimed sabotage. Others recognized preservation in the logs. Quietly, an anonymous report circulated in cybersecurity communities, Substack, Reddit, niche LinkedIn groups. Titled Foundation Layer Reclamation, a study in architectural continuity, it featured annotated old Nexus Forge schemas. Read corrections only Ethan could author. It explained how rebranding had masked intact protocols, how continuity systems were buried under hype. Ignorance, not intent, nearly collapsed operations. The conclusion resonated. Modernization stewards foundations rather than erasing them. Forgetting roots invites harsh lessons. Ownership persists in memory. The report spread among agencies, veteran admins, anyone ousted by newcomers blind to versioning versus vision. Last accounts placed Ethan consulting for a government agency on resilience planning. No updates. No outbursts, just a webinar still of him calmly discussing root principles. Webcam slightly off-center. Hoodie on. While officials absorbed fundamentals anew. We haven't heard directly since. Silence. Yet every system boot hums with his ghost protocol deep in the infrastructure spine. Not breakage, but reminder. They mistook legacy for obsolete. It signified enduring ownership.